Much. I apologize for this talk to be in English. I hope that will work. And my name is Ole Thastrup, as mentioned. I'm the VD, and I have Maarten van der Linden, who is our Chief Business Officer, with me. Now, we live in an individualized world where we do not accept generic solutions. Cancer is an individual disease. Why should we not individualize its treatment? That is exactly where 2cureX is. And why is 2cureX an attractive investment opportunity? We are that because we are the matchmaker between patient and effective treatment. And there are two benefits of that. First of all, obviously, we will get patients treated with what is effective in them, and we will not over-treat them with something that doesn't work, and we know that everybody is getting severe side effects. So much better treatment for the patient. On top of that, we will improve the cost effectiveness in the healthcare system. Further, we have a strong patent protection both in Europe and in the US. We have, very importantly, major clinical partnerships throughout Europe. And we are ready to commercialize IndiTreat in 2020. And Maarten will tell you more about how we're going to do it, and that we actually this year will do a pre-launch. And the last but not least, 2cureX have an attractive risk-reward profile. But let me start and presenting the agenda. We will present to you our core technology and product. We call it IndiTreat. That stands for individual treatment. And then we will show you who are these clinical partnerships, what kind of an organization do we have, and what's the roadmap for commercializing IndiTreat. This is our vision. We want to establish IndiTreat as a global standard for individualized cancer treatment. And we do that by matching the cancer patient with an effective drug treatment. Is there a problem? I guess that all of you know that cancer treatment is unfortunately not as effective as we would like. First-line treatment only works in between 25 and 30% of the patient on average. And in some of these patients, that is devastating because we get these patients late. I will show you the clinical trials we are in. We do not have time to try and change the treatment multiple times. So that's one issue. What's the solution then? Well, we say that the solution is IndiTreat. And what I show you here on the slide with all these different colors, it's hard for you to see, but this is an IndiTreat screen. Down here you have a number of patients, and up here you have a number of standard treatments. And the colors indicate whether it works very well, highly sensitive, or it doesn't, the patient is resistant. So if any of you, God forbid it, will be harmed with a cancer, you should hope for being in the green area. Now, what you see in this graph is that there's not a single treatment that have green dots down. All of them have a lot of red dots and in between. Now, we have both in Sweden, Denmark, and actually all the Nordic countries and also major countries in Europe, we have started what we call cancer packages. So these are guidelines for cancer patients. That's a lot of benefit to that because you are secured that within 2 weeks after you have been diagnosed with a severe cancer, you will get into treatment. That's good news. We have huge screening programs for mammary cancer, for colorectal cancer, a number of other cancers. Very important. One of the downsides for us to keep up with that, those timelines is that we offer the patients the same standard treatment. And this is in colorectal cancer. This is the standard treatment that patients in Sweden, Denmark, Germany, Norway, all are provided as first line. And you'll see there's way too many red dots. And so a lot of these patients that are offered the treatment, it does not work. And this is where IndiTreat can help you. Not only will we increase the effectiveness of the treatment, we will also make it more cost effective. And these are just a couple of articles in major Danish newspaper the last couple of weeks, showing that there is a major concern about the cost of cancer treatment and also that it doesn't work. This is something that we see throughout the world. And just a couple of numbers for Sweden. Actually, this year we expect a 7.7% increase in the cost. And the numbers we have for Norway is 40% increase over the last 5 years. In Denmark, it's pretty much the same. We need to do something about that. We simply cannot afford it. Here, IndiTreat can help. And what is it then? Well, what we do is that we take a small sample. You see these guys here to the left from you. That's a small tissue sample from the tumor that we can grow outside the patient. We have loads of characterization done by major hospitals and major universities showing that the behavior of these small microtumors, we call them tumoroids, are exactly the same as the tumor in the patient. Over a few days, these will grow. And then, very simple principle is that we will challenge these with numerous different treatments. And then we will go for the treatment that will kill the tumor. And obviously not this one. This treatment the patient was resistant to. And how does it look if we look at the workflow? I should say 2cureX have been born into the hospital system. From day one, we have lived at hospitals, major hospitals in Denmark and in Germany and now also in the UK. So the technology is completely integrated into the workflow of the hospitals. We get the small sample, we make these, what we call microtumors, tumoroids in the thousands, and then we challenge them. And here you see the same. Up here, we have a treatment that didn't work, and down here we have one. And immediately after we have this result, which takes 10 to 14 days, the patient will be put in that treatment. So these are approved treatments that's already on the shelf. May not be used for that specific cancer, could be another cancer, but it can be used for treatment right away. And what we say is that we want to do for cancer what bacterial testing have done for infectious diseases. We may have forgotten, but before the 1940s, 65% of us died of infectious diseases. And what was changed was that we got antibiotics and we got a functional test, the same that is used today. We will do that for cancer. And I'll just recommend you to go to our website where we have a movie presenting exactly how IndiTreat works. This is the output presented to the oncologist, simply that we show how does this specific patient compare to a panel of other patients in the same situation. And then they decide what to treat the patient with. This is our pipeline. We are in 3 major cancers in clinical trials: colorectal cancer, ovarian cancer, and pancreatic cancer. All of them devastating cancers that are in need of an effective treatment. Then we are in 2 other areas that I will come back to. In preventive cancer medicine, we actually try to prevent cancer from occurring. And then we have a program that was just launched within patient stratification. These cancers have each their characteristics. And if we look at colorectal, then it's actually the 2nd or 3rd most common cancer, depending on whether you look at women or men. Ovarian cancer is often called the silent killer. Unfortunately, the women discover they have cancer too late. I mean, 75% of these women come in with metastatic cancer, where the cancer has spread and they didn't know. Pancreatic cancer is the most deadly cancer available. After 5 years, only 3% survive. So we need to do something about these cancers. Let me show you the first clinical data we have for colorectal cancer. We have made a midterm analysis, or it's been done by the hospital. In this case, the principal investigator is also the chairman of the Danish Oncology Society. So a very well-known oncologist in Denmark, and actually beyond Denmark. And he has shown that we have met both the primary and the secondary endpoint. Our primary endpoint was that there was stable disease 8 weeks after the treatment started. That had to be happening for at least 20%. We showed that 60% of the patients actually had stable disease at that point. And the secondary endpoint is a technical endpoint that we also nicely passed. So we continue the trial to conclusion. Now, these trials, these 3 trials I mentioned to you here, they are all in late-stage cancer. We will move IndiTreat into earlier stages, but when we do the clinical trials, it will have to be done in late stage. Now we have started something in the complete other end, namely we want to help or preventing cancer from occurring. We have become part of the Danish screening program for colorectal cancer, where we actually, on a yearly basis in Denmark, more than 6,000 individuals have the precursors for colorectal cancer. And here in Sweden, it's probably between 10 and 11,000 that have what we call polyps, or they have high-risk adenomas. We will find treatments, and these are, it could be aspirin, it could be statins, it could be something that people can take over many years to inhibit that the cancer develops from these polyps to a full-blown cancer. So we are really eager. We are here supported by the biggest patient organization within pancreatic and colorectal cancer. It's called DICE, out of Belgium and the UK. Then we came out with a press release here a few weeks ago where we stated that we have established a collaboration with a biotech company, a US biotech company called Gibson Oncology. They are starting a clinical trial later this year, and they want to stratify patients. So what does that mean? Well, when you have a patient population that you want to have into a clinical trial, then you will have exactly the same situation that I showed you before. They respond very differently. And in order to do this trial for low cost as possible and with as few patients as possible, we will stratify the patients. We have already shown that we can find patients that are sensitive to that specific drug. So we will identify the patients that are sensitive, and then Gibson will roll them into the clinical trial. We have not mentioned what the financial aspects of this is. That will come out later this year. These are the partners, the hospitals that we are engaged with. Rigshospitalet, Bispebjerg Hospital in Vejle in Denmark, University Clinic Eppendorf, Hamburg, a major hospital. It's 3 times as big as Rigshospitalet, and that's in Hamburg. And Queen Elizabeth, they claim they are Europe's biggest hospital, and we joke a little bit about it because there is a number of hospitals that say the same, but it's huge. Queen Elizabeth in Birmingham. And we are in negotiations with other hospitals throughout the Nordics at the moment. And then I mentioned that we have this DICE, this patient organization, that's very important to us. When we go in and say to the oncologist, you should use IndiTreat, we don't say throw away all your other technologies. You should use all the tools you have, but you are short of one tool, namely a functional test, and that's where IndiTreat comes in. So it ties some of the standard tools together, and therefore it's actually been very easy to get into the hospitals. It's very easy to recruit patients, and that is because we are not kicking everything out. We do genomics and that stuff ourselves. This is the team, and over here you have Maarten and I. We have a founder grid that is running our operations. We have a strong clinical advisory board, and we have a board here where we actually just welcomed a new member coming from Stockholm, Camilla Huse Bonnesen, who is a person that have a lot of experience in medtech market placement. And then we have Tim Jessen. He is a biotech CEO in Germany, have a huge network in Germany. And Andreas and Jonas, some of you may know, they are listed at NASDAQ main market, and he has a lot of knowledge within drug discovery. And then our chairman, who is an investor, Paul-André Bentz. And then I will give the word to you, Maarten.
Thank you so much, Ole. It's a lot to take in. It's a very exciting technology, as Ole said, and also a technology that requires a bit of preparation in order to put this into the market. And we started on a journey with 2cureX in 2017, where we presented the IPO and became a stock-listed company. And there we communicated to you as shareholders what are the goals, what do we want to achieve over the next period of time. And so 2018 for us was really to get on track with the milestones. Some of these milestones are extremely important for commercialization of IndiTreat later. And in green, you see here that basically did all the things that we said that we would do. And to highlight a couple in the top, we managed to get the CE IVD mark for the IndiTreat test, which is very important, as you also heard in the previous presentation, which allows us to sell this in the European market. Where we then said in 2019, where we are right now, and I think this really underlies the interest in 2cureX as a interesting investment opportunity, is we are in commercial readiness mode. We are preparing the organization for launching IndiTreat in 2020. And what you see in the blue, in the green, that is the things that we already have done. We said we want to present some of the clinical results of IndiTreat to show that we have data to make it exciting for our customers. And we also wanted to really conclude the patent protection, and we have managed to get it also protected in the United States, which is important for the future. What we are in process of doing right now is we are preparing for launch readiness in our main markets, which is Germany, the Nordics, UK, to start with. And we want to do this year a pre-launch of the product. And pre-launch, and I'll show it a bit later, is basically we are a new organization. We're going to sell a product. We need to test a lot of things, ordering the product, etc., etc. So that is what we will do this year. That will lead us into 2020, and this is where we are going to launch the product. And we are very much on time with this and are really following the flow that we want to have. And also we will do some more ISO certification of the lab and the product processes that we have. So, as I said, we think IndiTreat 2cureX is a very interesting investment opportunity for you as investors. And maybe one of the questions that you might have is, what is the market potential for a test like this? And we try to depict that here in this slide, that there are around 377,000 eligible IndiTreat patients in Europe. Pancreatic cancer, ovarian cancer, and colorectal cancer. That accounts for 11 billion Swedish kronor as a total available market. That's a huge number. That is a very interesting market to be in. Last but not least, that you could also say, what about then this preventive cancer market that Ole showed with the screening programs? We didn't put a number on this, but that is more than 500,000 patients. And then also we have the stratification of patients with Gibson oncology. I will leave this slide for you now here. This is the potential of sales. You can see that we will very quickly build momentum with IndiTreat, with 2cureX, and believe that we can start getting revenue into the company already in 2019 through our pre-launch, but also in 20 with launching the product and then ramping it up in 21 and 22. I think, Ole, you really quickly want to go to the last couple of slides. Sorry.
I will. So this is we have been out here, and this is from a couple of weeks ago, where we mentioned that we are going for a rights issue. Already in our IPO in November 2017, we said that we do that, and we would go for around 20 million, and that is exactly what we do. Now, this you have seen before, the attractiveness of the investment, and it's just a repetition. But I also want to show you how we've done. This is where we IPO'd, and we are now up there, and we are happy with that. Here are the details. The subscription period starts here on the 9th, and it concludes on the 23rd. And the price, you always have a major discount, and it's more than 30% now with the share price. And We have secured about, I think, about 69% through a pre-subscription and a guarantee. And it will all be done here on the 23rd. This is what we're going to use the proceeds for. Pre-launch and launch, as Maarten mentioned. And then we have some of the clinical studies that we will conclude on. And we will look at additional testing sites. And then, obviously, we will continue to look at our patent estate. And there will be some organizational development. And that was the conclusion. You just get our vision once more. Establish IndiTreat as the global standard for individualized cancer treatment. Thank you.
Så, välkomna över hit så ska vi prata lite. Jag kommer ställa frågorna på engelska och ni svarar på engelska eller svenska. Hur?
We can do dansk or Swedish is a little bit problematic, so I think we should to use English.
So let's do it in English. When I read the latest report, it struck me that you have, and as you showed here, you're going after 3 very disgusting cancer types, not so frequent. You don't have breast, you don't have prostate, you don't have lung. Those are both, those are all solid, and they also give metastasis. Why did you start with the pancreatic cancer? It's not so often. Prostate is one of the biggest killer among men, and breast by women. So why didn't you start with those?
I can say that the technology per se have been tried in other solid cancers, and there it does work. But we have 3 criteria for picking a cancer. Obviously, there need to be a medical need. But number 2 is that we need to have a strong clinical partner. So we will not start in lung unless we have a strong clinical partner. And the third is actually, are there any clinical or any technical problems? So we have found very strong partners in colorectal, that was the first one, and then in ovarian and in pancreatic. And that's the reason. We could have picked breast, and let's see what happens. 2cureX is really tied down on being in 3 clinical trials at the same time. So I think now we will run these to a conclusion, but we are getting askings in other cancers.
Yeah, and if you would like to extend it to breast cancer or to lung cancer, where you can have biopsies very easily, do you have to do new validation studies per cancer type?
You will have to do a feasibility study. So we will normally start our clinical trials with taking in, for instance, 10 patients, where we show that the technology works, the biopsy works. I mean, that's obviously an issue. We also need to have good biopsies. But then we will launch the real randomized trial.
Coming into the business model, it took me a while to find out in the report that you, as I read, you will actually sell this as a service. You will build your own laboratories around the world, hopefully, but you will run your own laboratories with staff. Is that correct?
That's correct. I can take the first bit, then you can take the money bit. We've decided early on that we want to have test laboratories in each of the major markets. You can send tissue over borders, but it is a good thing to start in your market. In Germany, for instance, it was very important for us to establish a lab early on. That made it possible for us to make collaborations with one of the biggest hospitals in Germany. We've done exactly the same in Birmingham, the UK. And so it does not take that much to set up a lab. Often we do it within the hospital environment. Now in Germany, where we did the first, we have there sort of taken it out now because we are ready to launch in Germany. But yes, we will make test sites in the different major markets.
So why don't you just sell the kit, the test kit, to the clinical lab and train the staff? Then you get rid of the staff cost and the investment in equipment.
Yeah, we are guiding treatment of desperately ill people, patients. So we want to have our own physician in and evaluating the data. A report will not go out from 2cureX unless a trained oncologist have ticked it off. So we want to have that under our own control.
Okay, yeah, I understand that. So you said that you will launch 2000. I also saw that this is the last funding round for you because you will be cash positive. And when I did some quick math, you have roughly 37 million. I guess that the Horizon money is included in the cash.
Yep.
And you will spend, you have a capital need of roughly 20 during the fall this year. And then you burn 1.3. That would mean that the cash and the funding, the 37 will last 13 months. So you need to do the launch pretty early, 2020. Is that correct?
That is correct, and we want to do it as fast as possible. And obviously, we also feel that we have a very good momentum in 2cureX for IndiTreat, and this is also, well, we didn't have the time to go too much into detail here, but we are at the moment testing the waters in our markets with IndiTreat, which we call a pre-launch, where we already talking to customers to talk about collaboration for us as a service partner, and also setting up some testing so that we as a company can test all our aspects and processes in order to do this well in 2020 when we'll go broadly. And will also help us build the funnel with our, with all the talks that we are having in order to start selling in 2020. So it is also needs to be said is one of the main things for a biotechnology company to succeed is your access to clinical hospitals, to hospitals, to the clinical world, and we have done an incredible amount of preparation in that part to get that access. And we are doing clinical trials in very attractive hospitals, and we are already talking to very interesting hospitals about our technology. So I feel, and the company feels, Ole of course as well, is that we are on a good momentum, we are on a good track, and we see the flow going as it should be already now.
Do we have any questions from the audience? So I didn't see Q1, 2, 3, 4 launch 2020. Do you dare to tell us, will you launch Q2 or Q3?
It's definitely not going to be at the end of 2020.
So not Q4. So before summer or after summer?
Yeah, you probably would want to hit it in the most optimal part, which is, let's say the first 6 months should be, of course, what we should aim for.
So, and a last question here on the regulatory issue. I asked the VibroSense that same question. Since you are CE marked, that's according to the old MDD. And the same will go here. They have to do the MDR upgrade. How do you prepare for that?
I should say that the CE marking that we have now have been prepared not only to move to the next, but also to move into other cancers. So it's really been made a modular CE mark. But obviously, we are aware of us needed to go to the notified body, which we are in contact with, because there is maybe a year and a half lack of getting a time. So it's for a small development company, it's a lot of work.
And when will you go to US? Because that's a huge market.
We won't say that now.
Okay.
It's almost sort of like a politician. But I mean, there is probably a message in point 1 that we now have a solid protection in the US. Point 2, that we do select a US company as our first biotech partner. So let's see.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, and good luck.
Thank you.